Hi Year 11, it's Mrs. Gill. Just thought I'd put this on a really short, probably quite rubbish video because I'm not used to doing this, haven't done it for ages. So today's lesson is kind of following on from what you did yesterday about ecosystems. So you need to write the title Ecosystems into your book, and the learning objective is coming up. Objectives are to describe what an ecosystem is. So hopefully by the end of the lesson you'll understand what an ecosystem is, to understand what makes up an ecosystem, and the most important one for today is to locate where the world's ecosystems are. We're going to start with that last learning objective in this lesson. Okay, so this is a map of the world's biomes. And if you want to, after I finish talking, you could print a copy of this map out or find one similar online. Ecosystems can be really, really small. So you could have an ecosystem in your garden, so like a pond. They can be really, really small, an ecosystem, but they can also be huge and stretch across whole countries. And when they're like this, we sometimes refer to them as biomes. So biomes are just huge ecosystems. And some of the world's major biomes are on this slide. So obviously you've got oceans. Coral reefs are also an ecosystem, which we'll talk about a little bit more in another lesson. And then the main ones really are the polar regions, the deserts, the grasslands, the mountainous areas, tropical forests, so that's like the rainforests, temperate forests, and wetlands. And so you can see on this map where they're distributed. Basically, if you look, you should be able to see that along the equator, you mainly have areas of rainforest. So if you find Brazil, for example, you'll see that there's lots of green on the map there, and that's lots of tropical rainforest. Going across towards the east, across the Atlantic, you'll see that the Congo, there's like a squiggly band of rainforest there as well, and Madagascar quite near to the equator. And then going right across the Indian Ocean, the islands of Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia and so on, lots of rainforest there. So on the equator we tend to get rainforests, and the key thing there links back, so interleaves back to what you did in the very first GCSE topic about global circulation. So if you remember, at the equator, the air rises and therefore creates low pressure. And as it rises, the water vapour cools, condenses, and you get lots of cloud. And where you get lots of cloud, you get lots of rain. And therefore, the best ecosystem that forms there is a tropical rainforest. Because in order for that, you need a lot of rain and you need a lot of hot temperatures. Okay. Excuse me, moving either north or south, you can then see the yellow areas. You've got grasslands. So these are the areas sort of between the equator and 30 degrees, and they're called the tropical grasslands or savanna ecosystems in some places. And they're the kind of ecosystems you see on a lot of documentaries. So it's where you see like the giraffes, the cheetahs, like the big five in Africa, the safari parks. And basically they're quite dry, but they do get seasonal rainfall. And that's because they're kind of near to the equator, so it's really hot. They do get some rain, but they're also close to 30 degrees north as well, which is where the air sinks. So you will need to try today to recap the global circulation stuff, and that's part of what you're going to do today. Moving north again, you'll see the orangey colour is the deserts. So the Sahara Desert is the big chunk of desert that goes across the top of northern Africa. And that lies at 30 degrees north. And that's where the air is sinking. So you get high pressure, you get no clouds forming, and therefore hardly any rain. And that's why you get deserts. And you can see at 30 degrees north and south, there are a few deserts. So you've got the Sahara, you've got the Lut Desert in Iran, you've got the Gobi Desert in sort of northern China, southern Russia. And then south, you've got the Namibian Desert on the west coast of Africa. You've got the Australian deserts and the Atacama Desert in South America. So it all links to our climatic circulation. But there obviously are some anomalies which you can look at and try and find as well. And it all links back to that first topic. I would like you to do, one of the things I'd like you to do is to try and write a 4-mark exam question based on what I've just explained. But the first exam question, all you need to do is to describe the distribution of the world's biomes. So in an exam, you might get a map similar to the one I've just talked about. And the first question would ask you to describe what you're seeing. So you need to use the T technique, the trend, evidence, anomaly. So what is the map showing? So where are the world's biomes? You know, name some countries, name some continents if you can. So that would be your evidence. And then pick out at least one anomaly. So look at the map and see if there's any ecosystems or biomes that are not located where you would expect, and describe that. You don't need to, for a describe question, you don't need to explain the reasons we've just discussed. However, it would be really good if some of you could go on to write another answer, a 6-mark exam question, which does explain. And obviously I will put all of this on Show My Homework. There is a YouTube link at the bottom of the PowerPoint, which talks a little bit about global circulation and how it links to the ecosystem. So it would be worth you clicking on that afterwards as well and having a little look and making some notes. Okay, what I've done here, because you obviously don't have a copy of the textbook, this is just a copy of some information that's quite useful to you. So it links to what you did yesterday in the lesson. You've got the biomes in the first column, then you've got the average temperature that is experienced in those biomes, then you've got the average rainfall in millimetres, then you've got the type of plants and the type of animals that are found in those ecosystems. Do try and remember that plants are often called flora in exam questions, and animals are often called fauna in exam questions. So you might want to jot that down. Many of you will have already used information like this in the last lesson, so you might not need to do this. But if you struggled or if you didn't do it, the next slide gives you an opportunity to make sure you've got that information. So you need to be aware of all of the biomes, but for the GCSE, we need to pick 2 that we know in a lot of detail. And so the 2 that we're going to do are the polar biome, so the Arctic and the Antarctic, and the rainforest biome, so the tropical rainforests, the Amazon, the Congo, etc. So what I want you to do is you can sort of see the layout on this screen. So you could print this on an A4 sheet if you wanted and fill it in, or you could just stick a copy of the map in and then write around the edge of it. It's up to you. But I really would like you to kind of describe what those different biomes are like. So what is the temperature like? What's the rainfall like? What kind of flora and fauna do you get? And then the stretch and challenge task is to explain why that particular biome is located in that particular area. So what is the reason why? Okay. If you finish all of that, you'll see in the purple box there's an extension task, the challenge question. So have a go at that as well. Obviously, all of this will be written and explained on Show My Homework too, but I just wanted to talk you through it so that hopefully some of you that were struggling might get a better idea. And then finally, you will see that there is a sheet like this attached to Show My Homework. So I thought we'd do a little bit of a jog your memory here. You've got 6 climate graphs and you've got 6 biomes. And I want you to look at the climate graphs and try and match the climate graph to the correct biome. So for example, the tropical rainforest climate graph is the graph in the middle on the top row, because it's got high temperatures that are 25 degrees or more throughout the year, and the temperature is the red line. And it's also got relatively high rainfall totals, where the sort of rainfall is over 200 millimetres every month, pretty much. So ideally you would print your sheet out and annotate with the correct biome, but if you can't print it, you could just call the graphs A, B, C, D, E, F, and then just write them out. It's just a good way of like thinking about what the climate's like in these different ecosystems. Okay, if you have any questions, then obviously ask, but I just thought I'd go through that with you. Okay.